The Republic of Silence. There's a silence that rules this land. Not the silence of peace, but of fear. A silence that follows after the gunshots fade, after the soldiers leave, after the cameras stop rolling. They call it peace. But for those who live through it, it feels like the quiet that comes after thunder, when you're not sure if the storm is truly over. I've heard it, I've seen it, and I've walked through it. The silence that follows the Nigerian army. From the streets of Zaria to the ghostly towns of the southeast, Onitsha, Aba, Umuahia, Orlu, Owerri, Enugu, and many more. To the blood-stained pavements of Lekki, to the dark alleys of Obigbo, I have seen the same pattern. A people crying for justice, and an army answering with bullets. Each time, a new excuse. Each time, a new chief of army staff. But always, the same silence. Yet, somewhere in the same country, men who terrorized villages, slaughtered children, and abducted women walk freely, rebranded as repentant. This is not just the story of impunity. It is the anatomy of a broken oath, an agony that follows a broken heart when a nation's sword no longer knows its enemy. Time and time again, demand for justice is followed with brutality, and request for accountability met with silence. This exposé follows that silence, from the peaceful protesters of Zaria to the frightened residents of the southeast. On December 12, 2015, in Zaria, Kaduna State, the Shia group, members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, were gathering for a religious procession. Tensions with the military had been rising for years. Then came the order. An army against civilian protesters. Troops moved in and bullets rained. For 48 hours, the city became a war zone. Houses burnt, children shot, bodies buried secretly in mass graves, according to Amnesty International. The government said they blocked the convoy. But even if they did, what crime did the babies commit? The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Grate, said it was a lawful operation. But to those who buried their loved ones, it was another massacre, another wound buried under official denial. After the dust settled, more than 350 civilians were dead, and the silence began again. If you travel down to the southeast, you will find another kind of silence, one born from exhaustion. Between 2016 and 2023, villages from Aba to Onitsha, from Orlu to Ihayala, became hunting grounds. The army called them operations against separatists. But to the people, they were occupations. Checkpoints multiplied. Young men disappeared. Bodies turned up in forests. Homes burnt, towns emptied, mothers waiting. In 2021, in Orlu, soldiers flew helicopters over civilian streets. In Imo, armored tanks rolled through neighborhoods. Not against foreign enemies, but against Nigerians. Videos surfaced of soldiers executing men on the roadside. Each time, the military said, they were armed, but so were the ones killing in the north, and yet they were called repentant. The hypocrisy was deafening. The double standard, brutal. When the army comes south, it comes to punish. When it goes north, it comes to negotiate. In October 2020, while the world watched Lagos, while the world wept for Lekki, another tragedy unfolded in the shadows. The military stormed Obigbo, accusing locals of harboring members of IPOB. They came in trucks, they stayed for weeks, and when they left, hundreds were missing. Women told stories of abductions. Bodies were found in bushes. Families still search for their sons today. Governor Nyesom White called it a security operation. The army called it a necessary action. But in Obigbo, people called it what it was, a massacre. The Chief of Army Staff, Tukur Barate, a man whose name Nigerians spit at, would later be appointed ambassador after retirement, not investigated, not questioned, not held accountable, but rewarded. The same silence, the same immunity. On October 20th, 2020, in Lekki Toll Gate, another impunity unfolded. That night, Lagos glowed under the floodlights of history. Young Nigerians stood waving flags they believed would protect them. They sang the national anthem, their voices shaking but hopeful. And then, the lights went out. Gunfire echoed across the toll gate. The anthem turned to screams. Blood painted the green, white, green. They said no one died. They said it was fake. But we saw it. We heard the shots. We saw the soldiers. We saw the silence that followed. And when panels were set up, they argued over evidence, as if the bodies were not evidence enough. Those we're told are the future leaders of the nation were shot without mercy, killed bearing the flag of the country that called theirs. To those masterminders of impunity, history will remember them, even if the courts do not. However, while protesters were shot in Lagos and civilians hunted in the southeast, the government began another campaign, not against terror, but for terrorists. They called it Operation Safe Corridor, a program to rehabilitate Boko Haram fighters. The same army that turned its guns on peaceful citizens was now giving meals, training, and uniforms to those who once killed them, slaughtered men, women, and children, and burnt villages. Some of these repentant fighters were absorbed into the Nigerian army, others given new homes and government aid. Meanwhile, the widows of their victims still slept in camps, hungry, forgotten, unavenged. We have become a nation where terrorists find redemption and truth seekers find bullets. Everywhere you look, the pattern repeats. Zaria, Orlu, Obigbo, Lekki, operation after operation, excuse after excuse. Each time the army kills, and the country moves on. Barate retired. His successor, Lieutenant General Farouk Yaha, continued the cycle. Under him, Operation Golden Dawn turned villages into war zones. Men dragged from their homes, corpses left on the roadside, and still no accountability. Every new chief of army staff promises reform. Every new government promises justice. But the graves keep multiplying. We do not live in a democracy of justice. We live in a republic of silence. A republic where soldiers kill and receive medals. Where killers are called repentant and citizens called terrorists. A republic where truth is dangerous and memory is a crime. We call it peace because we are afraid to call it by its name. There comes a time when a nation must choose between forgetting and healing. Silence does not heal, it only buries truth alive. We say never again, but each year it happens again. To the soldier who still has a conscience, remember, your duty is not to obey blindly. It is to protect the people whose taxes buy your bullets. To the leaders who send them, know that history records not your titles, but your silences. And to the people, our quiet is our greatest enemy. For every time we refuse to speak, we give permission for another massacre to be planned. The Republic of Silence is not a place. It is a condition of the soul. It is the Lagos mother still waiting for her son from Lekki. It is the woman in Obigbo lighting a candle for the man who never came home. It is the child in Orlu who no longer runs at the sound of gunfire because he's grown used to it. Until Nigeria confronts the truth of its massacres, it will remain a democracy built on bones. And somewhere, beneath the hum of traffic, beneath the songs of morning prayers, beneath the flag we pledge to, you can still hear the echoes. The echoes of a question we have not yet answered. Who protects the people from their protectors? Subscribe to this channel and be part of this voice, a voice that cries for justice and begs for pity. Together our voices would be loud to bring healing to the wounded and justice to those denied.